Hi witches! I know, I am back in my home studio just for today because I have been a busy bee. I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to upload a whole lot last month. If you guys are not aware, which I do not expect you to keep up with my life, but I'm getting married in like literally less than a month, so I've just been like crazy busy, and I'm so sorry, but after this, I promise I will be uploading way more often, and we continue the trope of me running into the plant. Great. Anyways, greetings and welcome to a witch's guide to lunar magic. I've really enjoyed chatting about all of the moons last year, and we're continuing it this year because I really wanted to like standardize everything, so that's what we're going to do today. We're continuing on talking about the full pink moon in Libra, which is occurring on Thursday, April 6th. So we have a couple days to prepare. Now, first things first, let's talk about the name and kind of break it down. So it's the full pink moon in Libra. Now, the full pink moon is like kind of the most common name that I've seen, and this is because one of the plants that's growing apparently very frequently right now, I live in the middle of like kind of a not so much green space, so I haven't quite seen it, but if you see it, please let me know. But wild ground phlox is a beautiful like pink plant that is sprouting and blooming right now. And that's where the name comes from. This moon is also known as the seed moon, the grass moon, the egg moon, or the wind moon. And all of these are really tied to that concept of like rebirth, fertility, springtime, and all of that good stuff. For all my Jewish witchy friends, Passover begins on this moon, and Easter falls right after it for my Christian witches. So this is often because of this, this moon is often referred to as the Pesach moon or the Passover moon, as it determines the date of Easter as well as Passover. And that is because it refers to the first full moon following the spring or the vernal equinox, which is what we celebrated on the 21st or the 20th of March. Oh my gosh, I can never remember. It changes from year to year, just depending on where the planets are, right? Now, this full moon falls in the astrological sign of Libra, which is a cardinal air sign that is ruled by the planet Venus. Now, Venus, of course, is all about love and creativity, and this specific moon in Libra asks us to look within, to find balance, and to connect with self-care, self-love, and all of those beautiful introspective things that one may do during the waning moon cycle, right? Now, while Aries got us charged up during the last new moon, which we're going to talk about because there's another Aries new moon coming up later this month that has an eclipse attached to it, which is why I'm talking about it then and not previously. Anyways, but Libra asks us to like slow down, like alternatively, Libra asks us to kind of slow down and make space for peace and harmony to enter our lives. So if we've been really like expansive, we've been putting a lot of energy out into the universe, now is the time to kind of take a step back and just invite some balance and maybe invite some healing, some self-care back into our space, right? Now, full moons are a fantastic time to manifest, and they do aid in all spell work. I know some people are a stickler about setting intentions on new moons versus full moons, but I think you can do it at any time, whatever your practice calls for. And oftentimes witches do feel they're most powerful when the full moon is above us. However, like I said, some witches prefer the new moon, and that is okay. Just know that's okay. Now, I'm sure all of that information is all well and good, but let's get into some of the more practical things that one might encounter or need to know about in order to celebrate this full moon. Now, the spiritual intentions for the full pink moon in Libra, again, are all about creativity, love, self-care, finding balance, but also about kind of fertility, rebirth, innovation, growing, new growth, as well as changing, and even I would say like cleansing, a lot of those same intentions that are tied to Ostara as well. Now, I know I am a goth, but I think that color magic is absolutely wonderful, especially for novice practitioners or practitioners who can't openly practice. And a lot of the times, like, I really encourage you to kind of like look around the world and notice the colors that you see in nature and use that to inform how you decorate your space. Now, for me personally, I'm seeing a lot of like pinks and reds and whites, as well as pastels, and then again the silver and black for the full moon. I grew up like really close to DC, and oftentimes we would go into DC to see the Cherry Blossom Festival around this time. So that's always kind of like the first thing I think of when I'm thinking of like this full moon. So stuff like that. Next, let's talk about some of the symbols that you can use to decorate your altar or your sacred space. Now, of course, lunar imagery is always going to be a given for any full moon or new moon, whatever you want to do. But as other things such as making your altar really symmetrical, including things such as scales, a balance of dark and light, spring flowers, maybe some incense or bells to be associated with that element of air, as well as other items maybe that you have in your practice associated with that element of air, maybe a wand or something like that, as well as any self-care tools, or if you're like an artist or a musician, maybe any sort of like creative tools that you might use really regularly just to like cleanse them, bless them, and maybe even charge them under the full moon. Which I definitely did in fashion school. I did charge my tools under the full moon so I would get good grades, and I graduated with a 4.0. But anyways, for all of my wonderful spellcrafters, green witches, and alchemists out there, let's chat about some herbs and crystals, shall we? Now, in general, we want to select herbs, of course, that are associated with our spiritual correspondences. So in the case of the full moon in Libra, we want to focus on change, creativity, courage, success, all of that good stuff. So I would consider herbs such as borage, mullein, thyme, yarrow, fennel, cinnamon, clover, dandelion, daisy, catnip, willow, lavender, and marjoram or oregano. And as for crystals, of course, we are going to be using a very similar logic, matching up stones that correspond with the colors of the moon, perhaps, as well as other spiritual intentions. So for the full moon in Libra, of course, I encourage you to use things such as quartz, selenite, rose quartz, being the pink moon or any other pink crystals that you might have, citrine, amethyst, pyrite, or tiger's eye would also work super well. And finally, let's apply all of these things, the tools, the intentions, the energy, all of that good stuff into some real world practical magic in the form of spell work, right? So first things first, if you can, this is kind of something that just happens to be like coincidental, right? But I encourage you to collect rainwater if you can, if it happens to rain that day. If you can't, it's not a requirement, it's okay. But you can use that to make moon water. And in my practice, rainwater is not only cleansing, but it really promotes change or transformation. For me, whenever it rains, like the sentence that like popped into my head a million years ago that I haven't been able to get out, is the rain brings change. So if that helps you, I hope that you can use that in your practice as well. Feel free. I encourage you to maybe like take some time, and this is a little bit silly, but connecting with your inner child and making a wish on a dandelion. And if you have kids, you can do that with your children too. It's very fun. It's also something that people who are not openly practicing can do without people looking at you too weird. They might be like, why is that person like blowing on a dandelion in the middle of the night? But no, I'm just kidding. Alternatively, if you wanted to make it a little bit witchier, you could write your intentions or wishes on bay leaves, either crumple them up, burn them, and scatter the ashes or the crumpled up leaves, I guess, into the wind to take them, to scatter your intentions out into the universe. And of course, wear the color pink to celebrate the pink moon. You might also want to take the opportunity to start planning for our next holiday, which occurs on May 1st, and that is the holiday of Bealtaine, or as a lot of American witches say, Beltane, but that is actually not the Irish way to say it, so I tried to say it the Irish way after some Irish viewers were like, hello, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. You could also maybe make and wear a little flower crown, have a little Lana Del Rey moment, no, and with some of the first spring flowers that you find from your garden or maybe forage. If you can, maybe sprinkle some native seeds, and you can totally look that up on your state's like Department of Agriculture or like in natural resources like website, and sprinkle those out for pollinators or plant some of those plants in your garden. You can also take some time to work in your garden. You might also want to kind of wander down a new path or into a new place for inspiration. Places in nature or not, maybe going into a new section of the library or another place that you have always wanted to go and check out that you haven't yet. You never know where inspiration might strike. And finally, I encourage you to find maybe something small at a thrift store that you can add to your altar space just to change up that energy. Bring something new and exciting into your house, be sure to cleanse it, and really just see how that energy really changes up, and if you get any more motivation to maybe start a new creative project. So that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.